and the bean pie. You add sugar, you just cook it, add sugar to it, and there's a little more to it, and some spices, and bake it just like you do a baked potato or sweet potato pie or something like that. Even a carrot pie, anything that will cook down and dry out and give you that consistency. And the bean pie became one of the flagship products sold by the nation.
Because, you know, from what I remember, that Muslims love bean pies, but a majority of the people who bought bean pies were not Muslims, you know?
What?
And then when we used to go out, they said, bring me back one of y'all bean pies.
Brother, you know, what I found for many years, I was a graduate student at Howard University, and people would see me and know that I was a Muslim. And they would come to me and say, are you a Muslim? And I say, yeah. They say, you got any of them bean pies? And I'd be like offended, like, hey man, I'm working on a doctoral degree, and you asking me, do I sell bean pies and incense, and do I have the paper, right? And then after a while, I said, man, I could have made a lot of money, man, because just being Muslim, somebody gonna come over to you, and the marketing is already done. But they had these institutions and produced these products that not only did it serve their members, but also these restaurants served the community itself. And they were known as places where the food was quality, was clean, the people were respectful. And so that was my image of the Nation of Islam. But my mother was very clear, even in seeing me become sympathetic to the Nation of Islam. She said, if you join them, you can never quit. And that's all she would say. And it didn't really register until years later that what she meant was that the Nation of Islam was complicit in the assassination of Malcolm X because he left the Nation of Islam. And so her vision was, don't become a Muslim, because if you become one, you can never apostate. You can never leave them. And so that was part of the opera. So I had some firewalls built between me and the Nation of Islam to say that the Nation of Islam has its benefits, but it's not for us.
Well, we laughed a bit about the bean pie, but what was the economic benefit of selling these bean pies and newspapers?
I could have made money, man, if I had said people would buy these products broadside. If you open your trunk, there were people who would come over to you and say, do you have any of these products that are manufactured by the Nation of Islam? Do you have the newspaper? Because they used to sell and manufacture, produce their own newspaper, national newspaper, and people in the community who wanted to get another angle on local, national, and international news, as well as a vehicle that was marketing products, particularly manufactured by members of the Nation of Islam, and sold not only to their members, but to the wider community, but targeted marketing. Probably Nation of Islam, one of the first organizations to target products to the African American community exclusively. And there was major money to be made in those markets.
Right. But Imam Johari, let me ask you, we were talking about your journey to Islam, but I've talked to other people all around this country, and every other one in that journey somewhere comes the autobiography of Malcolm X and something related to Malcolm X.
Yes,
so
sir.
Tell us, did you have such a similar experience reading the autobiography of Malcolm X? And more than that, what is the effect that story seems to have on so many people, which is just a universal feeling and universal experience that people can identify with?
Well, again, this issue of Malcolm is a relationship that oddly enough is a relationship that is distinct from a relationship with the Nation of Islam. Part of this goes from the standpoint that at the time when Malcolm left the Nation of Islam, and he didn't live very long after that period, but he injected himself fully into the discourse around the struggle of African American people and others who were outside of the political mainstream. Probably, if we were to look at this, Malcolm comes on the scene at a time when television is gaining ground as the medium of the communication of news and ideas. The availability of the television in every home in the 60s. And so Malcolm has a peculiar aspect, and that is he is a person who speaks in sound bites. Remember, other people who were part of this discourse were used to being on the radio. And so they had very long and formal presentations about their opinion. Well, Malcolm would say, you know, it's just simple. You either the chicken or the egg. And if you're the chicken, boom, and if you're the egg, that's our situation. I don't want my goose to be cooked. Boom. That 30-second sound bite, they were like, we like talking to this guy. He's controversial, but he gets right to the point, powerful in his delivery. And so the media start following Malcolm's presentations. And the civil rights movement is on one side, and he's critiquing the civil rights movement and the liberal establishment in a way that resonates with people who feel that the progress of civil rights is moving too slowly. So with that, as a person who's coming to age Malcolm was assassinated on February 21st, 1965. So I was 9 years old. By the time I come into my own understanding, 16, 17 years old, I'm looking back at the legacy of Malcolm. By the time I get to college at Howard University, people who were influenced by Malcolm, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee called SNCC. So people like Stokely Carmichael, who's still alive, who's speaking on behalf of SNCC and the Black Panther Party, who's now part of the All African People's Revolutionary Party, and they're active in the university environment. They are quoting and referencing Malcolm and his influence on the progressive movement. So this issue of Malcolm and looking at his impact on people who were living in Washington, D.C., at Howard University, the Black Panther Party, the leftover SNCC movement, the All African People's Revolutionary Party, other groups that were forming, the Black Consciousness organizations, cultural nationalists, all of them are claiming Malcolm. So, subhanAllah, we had an African-American Studies, they call Afro-American Studies Resource Center, and in that Resource Center, they had a complete collection of speeches by Malcolm X. And I went home and I duplicated a copy of every speech I could get. And I would listen to them religiously. Every Sunday, while other people were having listen to their services or whatever, I gave up on going to church. I would listen to Malcolm on Sundays at home studying in my little spot. It's either the ballad or the bullet. It's either freedom, justice, and equality for everybody, or it's freedom and justice and equality for nobody. Right? So from that, it formed the basis of my social and political outlook. It wasn't until coming in contact with the real deficiencies of the Black nationalist and cultural nationalist ideology. I remember, subhanAllah, I had known many Muslims on campus, very international body. And let's not forget the Iranian Revolution is picking up also. So there are Iranian students who are also involved in the sort of political dialogue. You've got Africans who are in the States, many of whom come from Muslim countries that are going through the independence process, neo-colonial experience. So all of them are in the university environment. We're having this discourse. But subhanAllah, one day, it was January the 1st,